Hey guys, welcome to today's video, and in today's video I will be talking about the books that made me cry. Now, there aren't that many books that made me cry. I used to cry much more when I was reading books because everything just made me so emotional, but recently in the last 2 years, 1.5 years, it's just definitely decreased to a bare minimum. Now when I cry in a book, it's like when I'm reading a book, it's such a rarity. Usually the books that make me cry end up being my favorite books of all time because they just bring out so much emotion in me. So yeah, let's just get right started with the video. I'm gonna start off with the less obvious ones if you've watched this channel a bit, and then go through the more obvious ones that you're probably just done with me talking about. We're gonna start with Heartless by Marissa Meyer. This is an Alice in Wonderland retelling, and it tells the story of the Queen of Hearts, her past life in Wonderland, and how she came to be this horrible, cruel queen. And I honestly can't remember if I actually cried at the end, but I remember being so sad. It has a bit of a heartbreaking ending. Well, not even a bit. I mean, I didn't like the ending that much, but it was still so sad, and I was just like, no, I like these characters so much and I love the writing style, and now the book is ending and something horrible happened and I just can't cope with this. This book in general made me pretty emotional. It's just, I don't know, I can't really point at what it was in specific. But the writing style and the characters and the events that were happening in this book sort of reminded me of my childhood because it was very nostalgic to read about Alice in Wonderland related stuff. It's a book that I really do associate with my childhood, so I guess that's what made me really emotional, and that's why the ending affected me the way it did. Next up is, I forgot the title in English. Next up is The Serpent's Shadow by Rock Riordan. This is the third book in the Kane Chronicles series by Rock Riordan. I haven't really talked about this series much on my channel, but it was definitely one of my favorite trilogies of all time when I read it. I still think very highly about it. I think it's a really underrated book, especially a Rick Riordan book. Everyone loves your Magnus Chase, your Heroes of Olympus, your Percy Jackson, but nobody talks, I mean, I forgot their names, but nobody talks about these characters, and this book and this whole concept is just so cool. It's sort of separated distance from all the other books. Like, the characters in the other books are more intertwined. You get to see more like crossovers and stuff like that. With this one, that's not really the case, and that's what made it so unique, and that's why I guess people don't like it as much. But to me, it was crazy fun. I loved it so much, and when it was over, I was like, are you kidding me? I can't. If you haven't read it, because I feel like that's the one book that people don't read from Rick Riordan, you definitely should. It's just like anything else by Rick Riordan. It's super fun, super enjoyable, very fast-paced, full of adventure, but it just features Egyptian mythology and siblings are trying to save the world. Siblings trying to save the world. That just sounds so good. I loved it, and I just couldn't let go of this world. I remember just whenever I finish a really good book, I just hug it and I sit there and I stare at the wall, and I either cry or just think about everything and nothing. And this was definitely the case here, so it was awesome. Next up, we're going with The Dog's Purpose by Bruce Cameron, and this is a book that made me bawl my eyes out. I am not kidding. Oh my god, if you're a dog person and you love dogs, and I love dogs to death, if you love dogs, don't read this book. Just don't read this book. I know it sounds like a good idea because dogs are the main thing in this book, but it will make you cry waterfalls. I kid you not. It was so heartbreaking for me to read this. In the end, I'm still not recovered. This is about a dog who has gone through multiple lives, and he has like his first owner, and then he becomes different dogs in different lives after something happens to him in his first life. I'm not even gonna tell you what it's about. It broke my heart, and it's still not okay. Next up, we've got Clockwork Princess by Cassandra Clare. I don't think this is a surprise, but I don't really talk about this series, so maybe it is a surprise, but this ending, guys, I'm gonna tell you, I had no idea when I was first getting into the series. I know everyone said the ending's gonna kill me, and I was like, that can't be true. It did. This is the best, one of the best endings of a book I have ever read, if not the best one. It's just so brilliant and just so well written. It was just shocking and so heartbreaking. I definitely cried a lot in here. Next up, we've got The Trials of Apollo, The Burning Maid. It's the third book in the Trials of Apollo series, and if you've read this one, I think you know why I cried. If you haven't, damn. And if you are going to, be prepared, because this book, I was not expecting this at all. I'm trying not to spoil anything in here. I was just not expecting it. I remember reading it and I was just walking around my room super nervously, and then it happened and I was like, no, it can't be. I couldn't cope. I had to put the book down and just try to understand what the hell just happened. And then I thought it's a joke, and then I started reading it again and it was not a joke, and I'm still thinking maybe it's a joke because I haven't read book 4. I'm hoping, but it was just something else entirely. Next up, I'm going with An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. I listened to the books very recently, well, not so very recently, but it does feel like recently because I'm still on my book hangover from this book. And the ending, I really didn't expect to cry because I honestly haven't cried in a while. All of these books I read a pretty long time ago, and I haven't cried like recently in a book, so I wasn't expecting anything. But damn, I was so heartbroken when it ended. Like, I just could not cope with it. I had to keep on re-listening to the last sentences because maybe there was something more, but there wasn't. I could not cope. I could not cope, and the ending was just so, I don't want to tell you, but it was just no, it was a different level entirely as well. It's such a good book, you guys. Maybe you haven't read it yet. If you haven't read it yet, I would so highly recommend it. It's this fantasy world loosely based on the Roman times, like gladiators, all that stuff, except there's none of that. But there's a lot of cruelty, there's a lot of brutality, and lots of blood and deaths. Well, maybe not so much, but definitely more than I expected there to be for a YA book. The characters are amazing, and the two main characters are set at odds against one another. They're from two opposing groups who are fighting each other constantly, and there's, you know, some spark going on between them. And in general, you get this group of oppressed people, the scholars, who are trying to get their freedom back because they have been oppressed by the empire for centuries. Some magic awakens, there are some trials to become an emperor, and there's a lot of chaos, and there's a lot of gore. Did I already mention that? But it's just brilliant. Next up, we've got The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V. Schwab. Did you think I would not mention it? I definitely cried in this book so much. Like, not even, I don't know if at the end, but definitely for different parts of it. It was so emotional. It's one of the most emotional books I've ever read. It's this story of a girl who has been living on for centuries, but nobody remembers her because the deal she made with the devil, or someone like the devil, or some creature like the devil, was that she can live forever. She can escape the horrible reality she's facing right now, but the price is that nobody will remember her. So she can't make any lasting bonds, she can't make friends, nothing of that sort. And she finds the beauty of life in art. But one day she comes across a guy who actually remembers her, and she thinks she found a loophole. But did she? It's so good. It's so like slow, but in a good way. Like, you just get to focus on the art, on the beauty of life through her eyes. So good. Definitely cried. I don't know which one is more obvious, but I think this is less obvious. Do I need to introduce this another V. Schwab book? Hello, best author ever. With the title A Conjuring of Light. I'm speechless. This is just a perfect trilogy, and the fact it had to end at some point, it breaks me to think about it. I'll never get over the fact that it's over. Well, she is releasing new books, but like in this trilogy. I mean, she's releasing new books in this world, but in this trilogy, that was the last book, and I was not. And last but not least, we've got Harry Potter. Obviously, the Deathly Hallows and the Half-Blood Prince. I think I might have cried in other books of the series as well, but I don't really remember. Like, I think I definitely did in these two. I don't think I really cried. I might have shed a tear or something in the other parts, but these are the two that I just cried the heck out of, especially when the series ended. It changed my life. Literally, it changed my life. I'm not exaggerating, and it made me a better person. It made me so much better. So when it ended, I couldn't understand it. Like, what do I do with myself now? I don't, like, how do I live? How do I carry on with my life? And I could not understand that. I don't really know how I have lived from that moment when I finished this book. And I think if you've watched the movie, you probably know why I cried in this part of the series. I'm not gonna spoil it, but it was just devastating for me. The end was horrible, and I could not understand why it had to happen. I mean, I could, but I just yeah. Also, I cried multiple times while reading this book because so much was happening that was just like, so this is, I think, the one book that I cried a lot. And I mean, I cried the most ever while reading this book. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Anyway, guys, that's it for this video. I can't remember if I cried in any other book ever. I don't think so because I looked through everything and I really don't think so. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'd love to hear what books have made you cry recently in general. Do you often cry in books, or do you rarely cry when you're reading a book? I'd love to know all that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you very soon. Stay safe and take care. Bye!